The Managing Director of the Kenya Power Company. Good evening.
Good evening to you.
And it's good to see you here. And of course, we asked Kenyans about their concerns when we told them that you're coming. And most of them are talking about the cost of power, but also the reliability of transmission, but also supply of the same. What would you say is the state of power supply in the country, but also those concerns about the costs that now it has become so expensive?
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I do know and I do appreciate the impact that power has in any economy, Kenya included. And I also do appreciate the many customers that we are serving out there. At the moment, we are serving about 9.2 million customers. And I do know that in our bid to supply all of them, there may be challenges in one or the other place. And some, it is true that where we are right now, there are definitely a few teething issues. And this one has mainly arisen due to the government investment in this particular area and especially expansion. Normally, if you really want to maintain a very reliable and provide very good service, at times it may stand on the way of you rapidly expanding. So one at times is faced with two proposals. One is to rapidly expand and have a very high penetration of power in every part of the country. But as you go about doing that, there is the risk of compromising in terms of enhancing the quality and all the factors at the same time. So the direction that the government did, and I really want to appreciate that, because when you look at where we were 10 years ago, Sam, we had only about 2 million customers. As we talk today, we have 9.2 million. If you look at the size of the network that was there at that time, vis-a-vis now, the network has really expanded. Maybe for a good illustration, the distance around the equator is just about 40,000 kilometers. The size of our network is almost 8 times. That is, you can go around the equator 8 times around the entire globe. We have about 290,000 kilometers of our lines. And when you have such a vast network, you are definitely going to have a situation where in a part of this network, a tree could be falling on a line. You could be having a part of this network, which is again unfortunate. Some few people in the country could be vandalizing an asset somewhere. So you have a situation where not all the 9.2 million customers are enjoying the same quality of service and the reliable service that you'd actually want to have. And
but MD, is it that some areas are more prone to such? Because from the feedback we're getting, there appears to be challenges, especially in the western part of the country, whether it is Nyanza or Kisii area, and parts of Western Kenya. What is the challenge that is specific to that area?
The challenge to the Western Kenya, and particularly, I think the one you've mentioned, South Nyanza, you're talking about Kisii areas, Migori, Awendo, and those other parts of the country, is the constraint in the transmission network. And possibly as an assurance to those group of people and those residents in this country, the government, we've been having a conversation with the government, and we really want to appreciate that last week, there was an approval by cabinet of 16 billion Kenya shillings. And part of that money is to address the challenge in that part of the country. Maybe just as a way of illustration, whenever you have a very long line serving any particular part of the country, it is prone to a lot of challenges. When we talk about how Kisii is served today, or how Awendo or Migori, we have a line. The major line is from a place called Olkaria, where we have most of our rich geothermal resources. We have a line that goes all the way to a place called Kibos in Kisumu, which is a distance of about 300 kilometers. From Kibos substation, we go to a place called Moroni, another distance of about 40 kilometers. It goes to a place called Chemosit, possibly another 40 or 50. And then it goes to Sotik, then it goes to Gegati, Awendo, and it serves that part. If you look at what I've just described to you, you will definitely appreciate that it is passing through so many places. But what is the solution to that? You have a situation where right now, Awendo is being served by a line that is all over 400, possibly close to 500 kilometers. But it's only possibly around 200 kilometers from Olkaria. So what is the solution? There is a line that comes from Olkaria to Narok, a distance of just 60 kilometers. So what is missing? What is missing is a link just between Narok and linking it to Bomet another almost 80 kilometers, and you are a short distance away now from Sotik, you go to Gegati and all that. So part of the 16 billion that the government released last week and the cabinet approved, which we really appreciate, is going to address that link. It's going to connect Olkaria, no, rather Bomet and Narok.
Right.
And in so doing, Kisii are going to have a very short link of supply. Maybe another issue that possibly we'll mention later is that by having that shorter link, we'll also have reduced the transmission losses. I know the issue of losses is very emotive in this country, and those are some of the measures that as an energy sector, it's actually being addressed and is being taken seriously even at the highest level of this land. And
of course, we'll get to the details so as to understand, the evacuation of power from where it's being generated all the way to consumers' a point, whether it's at home or the industry. But also we are receiving information that there has been communication from Kenya Power Kisii saying that, good evening, customers. We have load management on Kilgoris and Keroka main lines affecting Mwamu Tea Factory, Itumbe Tea Factory, Ogembo Tea Factory, Eberege Tea Factory, Mara Tea Factory, Kiogoro, Mogonga, Kenyenya, Etago, Ibencho, Riokindo, Keroka, Hilltop, Masimba, Gesusu, Nyacheki, and our adjacent customers. This sounds like an entire area that is affected.
Yeah, I did mention there are two things that are at play tonight, and it's most unfortunate. Of course, I have mentioned the challenge of the transmission. And maybe to be particular, one of the main constraints against serving that area is that the link between Moroni and Chemosit is constrained in capacity. What I do mean is that the transmission link is unable to evacuate all the power that is required in that part of the country. But again, on top of that we have a situation today where some of what is called the variable renewable energy resources, we are talking about here wind, particularly at night, but during the day we would have mentioned solar. At times you have a generation, and I want to single out the Lake Turkana wind power, which has really been a very great blessing to us. And that is why at times when the generation is a bit low, it also affects us, and at times we have to do what is called load management. Tonight, we have a very low wind output from Lake Turkana. Yes, the generation is rated at 300 megawatts, but today, I think this evening, in fact, I think at around 4, it had even reduced to almost nil. But at this point in time, we could be doing about 60 megawatts. So you have a shortfall of from 300, it's only generating 60. So definitely it results in that level of what is called load shedding or load management, which we again apologize to those customers for what has happened. And again, what has really worsened the situation is that the hydrology in the country has not been very good. We have a very long dry spell.
We will talk a lot about that, especially on what you just mentioned about the intermittent power supplies coming from some of those renewable energies. But the